Hi, Todd. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing well. Tell us a little bit about your family story, where you've been, and maybe introduce your family to us.
Well, Kansas City holds a very special place for me. 47 years ago, I was born in this great city, and the Lord has taken me from here all the way to Colorado, all the way to Africa, all the way to Michigan and Florida, and other places around the world my whole life. So I'm very excited to be here. The Lord has used me in different various aspects of His ministry. I've done some youth ministry in Tampa Bay years back, and the Lord has just brought me through a journey of faith. And I am so excited to be here at New Hope, to join this congregation, to be able to do ministry with young families, with the youth and the children. So excited that hopefully we can get this virus thing behind us and get on to real life with everybody. So really excited for the future and what we have in store for everybody. So that is
What
something.
part of Africa were you in? Why were you there?
My parents are missionaries, and we moved to Africa when I was 5. So we moved to Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Swaziland, were the 3 countries that I grew up in when I was just a young boy.
Where'd you end up going to college?
I went to a small Christian college up in Spring Arbor, Michigan. If anybody knows it, knows the finger right about there in the hand, that's where my school was up in Michigan. Spent a great time there. Also spent 12 years in the Marines, in the military. And so I've done a little bit of everything and been around the world.
Yeah. And you met your wife where?
Well, the military moved me down to Florida, and in God's providence, I was able to meet my wife down there at church. And we now have 3 children. I have Gabriella, who's 12, William is 10, and Madeline is 5. And they are also very excited. They are not with us currently. They're still down in Florida wrapping things up, and I will be joining them next week. And we'll be driving up to be here for the 1st of July. So they are very excited to be joining us up here too.
Yeah, in the family ministry that you've been a part of in the past, what have been some of the great things that you've loved, that you've enjoyed, that's caused you to maybe to want to get back into full-time ministry?
Yeah. Well, I've always felt as my wife, when we have been working together, especially with youth ministry back in Tampa Bay, that there is just something about working with God's people and working with families in the church, and using our skills and our love for family and children. There's just something special about that we have been doing that for a while, and so excited to be getting back into that work.
Yeah. And what do you think, for your children's sake, what do you think are the most exciting things about moving here?
Oh, well, Kansas City is a far cry from South Florida and Miami. So I think mostly a change of pace of life. Also, very excited about meeting new friends up here. And certainly for the kids, I think the aspect of being here during a wet, white, cold winter would be lots of fun. To build a snowman and make some snowballs, I think they're very excited about that.
Well, we hope they don't see any this summer, but they probably, or this winter, but they probably will. Um, and as far as with Mandy and her leaving Miami and coming up here to Florida and being part of your work with the ministry, I mean, how as you as a couple, where are your strengths, and where do you see as maybe within the children's ministry, youth ministry, young families, I guess as a family unit, what excites you about coming into the church like this?
Well, we have been involved in various aspects of children's ministry or youth ministry over the last 20 years that we've been married. And we just love being involved with families. I think some of our gifts that we have are hospitality, and we just love doing life with people in our church. And so that's something we're very excited about doing up here, is just getting to know everybody over the next couple of weeks and months, and just sharing that time together. Because like Jim has been saying, the church is not the building; it's the people. It's the people in the church and building those relationships, and that's probably what we're most excited about as we step off to a new adventure.
Yeah. One of the things I've been noticing in the last couple of days as you've been here at the office, this whiteboard is changing a lot. Tell me what's going on here. We don't have to go into all detail, but what have you been doing here?
Well, I call this my war board, and that only is because of my military experience. But I'm just trying to separate all the different areas of responsibility that I'm going to be involved in, and just really trying to figure out how we can do what we need to do and do it effectively, and just trying to put down fresh ideas and see what we can do that will help us as a church to grow internally with the people we have here, and hopefully for people that will be joining the church in the future. Yeah, this is where I put all my thoughts down, because I can't just keep it up here by myself. I got to write it down.
Well, it's good they're erasable. I already have noticed one very serious problem. You keep your desk way too clean.
Well, this is only day 3, so give me a couple more days and we'll see.
Yeah, I also noticed. I gave you the VBS materials and talking about Sunday school ministry with children, and with the COVID scare, and of course we don't know yet whether or not we're going to even be able to have Bible school yet. What are some things that, top of your head? I know that in terms of ministry to families in the middle of COVID, and a lot of it's starting to get better and in some ways, but what can we be doing as a church family to encourage our young families, and what do you think you'll be able to do in July and August to start building some of those relationships when we might not be able to gather together yet?
Well, certainly COVID has complicated how we meet together. And so for instances where we can't meet together, doing things online through Zoom or phone calls, emails, you're going to see a lot of that come from me to you, so that we can connect on several different levels. So expect to hear from me sometime in the future, so that we can connect and we can find out how it is that we can minister to your families and how we can pray for you. And we're just really interested in knowing how we can provide assistance to you in many different ways.
Yeah. Now let's get away from work a little bit. When you fly back down to Miami next week, and your family is staying with one of Mandy's aunts and uncles, right?
Yep.
And I know they're excited to get on the road. Tell us some of the fun stuff that you're trying to plan for this journey, or if you can, without, maybe you're trying to surprise your kids.
No, it's no surprise. The general plan is to leave Miami, head to Orlando for a day to see my parents who live there, and then from there up to the Nashville area. We've never been to Nashville, so we want to sort of see the sights. We have some friends along the way that we're hoping to see that we haven't seen in years. There's also up in Kentucky the Mammoth Caves, so my kids think that's really cool, so we're very excited about possibly doing that. And then heading off west over to Kansas City, and then be ready to move into our house on July 1. So we've got a little bit of a road plan. I think maybe there could be some complications along the way. We're trying to stay out of the way of protesters and other things as we go through urban areas and city centers. But certainly keep us in prayer as we sort of make this last move and transition out of Florida up to Kansas. We're really excited.
Yeah. How else can we be praying for you as you make this transition, and then also maybe share a little bit about your house, where it's at, what your needs may be there, if we can help in any way?
Well, certainly this transition, we've made a few moves with our children in the last 12 years. But I think our children are old enough now that this move is going to be pretty substantial. So certainly pray for us as we make that transition from a completely different part of the country, and one where my wife and children have never been before, out here in the Midwest. is a vastly different area than South Florida. So just pray for us as we make that transition for our kids who are taking a step of faith along with my wife and I. They don't have any friends out here yet, but we're very excited about those possibilities for them. So certainly reach out to them. They would love to connect with you, and I think they're just generally excited for what is going to be here and what's next.
And remind us one more time, names and age. Well, you don't have to tell us Mandy's age, but names and age.
Yes. Well, my wife, my beautiful wife, is as young as ever, and then I have Gabriella, who's 12, William is 10, and Madeline is 5.
Okay.
And so we're going to be moving up to the Overland Park area. We have a house that we're renting there up off Lamar and 95, and so we're excited about that. And we'll see. We're going to sort of take this next year to see maybe where we can plant some roots and maybe buy a place. And we're just trying to sort of figure out where is best for us to live and in terms of doing ministry here from the church. So we're praying for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Todd. It's good to be able to spend some time talking with you and introducing you to the church family. And we are excited that you're here and excited to see what God is going to do in the future, as well as we continue to lean on Him and continue to serve Him. Many blessings to you and to the whole church family. We'll see you next week.